Mariel Santos thought she had found love in Dr. Amir Rahman, a brilliant, respected Dubai doctor who promised her a future beyond her wildest dreams. But behind this charm hid a man of dangerous control and deceit. What began as a secret affair between a lonely Filipino nurse and a married physician soon spiraled into a web of lies, jealousy, and fear. When Mariel decided to expose the truth, the man she loved turned into the monster she never saw coming. In a city built on glitter and ambition, their forbidden romance would end not in passion but in blood. Mariel Santos had always dreamed of working abroad, growing up in a small town in the Philippines. She watched her mother struggle to make ends meet, and promised herself she would one day provide a better life for her family. When she finally received her nursing license and landed a job in Dubai, it felt like a new beginning. The glittering skyline, the promise of financial freedom, and the idea of independence filled her with hope. Yet beneath that excitement was a quiet fear. She was stepping into a world far away from home, alone, with no one to rely on but herself. At Al Zahra Hospital, Mariel quickly earned a reputation for her professionalism and kindness. Patients adored her gentle tone, and colleagues respected her work ethic. She volunteered for extra shifts and often covered night duties others avoided. But after months of exhausting hours, the isolation began to weigh on her. Her evenings were spent in a small studio apartment, scrolling through social media, watching her friends back home get married, start families, and live the life she thought she had postponed for success. The silence in her room grew heavier each night. Her life took an unexpected turn the day she met Dr. Amir Rahman. He was a senior cardiologist, confident and respected by everyone at the hospital. Many described him as brilliant but distant. To Mariel, he appeared kind, someone who noticed her efforts when others didn't. Their first real conversation happened in the staff pantry, where Amir praised her for saving a patient during a sudden cardiac arrest. His appreciation felt genuine, and for the first time in a long while, Mariel felt seen. Over the next few weeks, Amir began finding reasons to stop by her ward. He offered professional advice, shared stories from his years in medicine, and sometimes brought her coffee during long shifts. What started as professional admiration soon grew into something deeper. Their friendship developed quietly, unnoticed by most, but within that silence, emotions began to stir. Mariel admired his intelligence and maturity, while Amir found comfort in her warmth and simplicity. When she learned that he was married, she tried to distance herself. But Amir assured her his marriage was merely an arrangement, hollow and loveless. Against her better judgment, Mariel allowed herself to believe him. The thrill of secrecy and the tenderness he showed her filled the emotional void she had been carrying. Their relationship moved from quiet dinners to private weekends in hidden apartments across the city. Each stolen moment drew her further into a web she didn't realize was being spun around her. To Mariel, their love felt real. She dreamed of a future where Amir would eventually leave his wife, where they could live openly without fear. But Amir had other intentions. Once he carefully hid behind affectionate words and practiced charm. While Mariel fell deeper into love, Amir saw her as a convenience, a secret to keep and control. Beneath the glitter of Dubai's luxury and promise, Mariel's fate was already being sealed by the dangerous affair she thought was love. What began as a hopeful journey for a better life was quietly twisting into a path of deception, obsession, and betrayal, one that would lead to a tragedy no one could have foreseen. As the months went by, Mariel's life revolved around Amir. Every message, every late-night meeting, every promise he made became a thread in the fabric of her fragile happiness. She believed their relationship was real and that patience would eventually reward her with the love she deserved. But beneath Amir's smooth words, cracks had already begun to form. The hospital staff, sharp-eyed and curious, started noticing the unusual closeness between the nurse and the married doctor. Rumors spread quietly through corridors, whispered in changing rooms and cafeterias, until one of Amir's acquaintances mentioned it to his wife, Layla. Layla was no stranger to her husband's charm or his ability to manipulate those around him. Her marriage to Amir had always been one of social standing and convenience rather than affection, but she wasn't about to let anyone embarrass her publicly. When she began suspecting that he was involved with someone at the hospital, she took matters into her own hands. She hired a private investigator, who discreetly followed Amir's movements. Within weeks, the investigator captured photographs of Amir meeting a young nurse outside a residential building, confirming what Layla had feared. Amir sensed the danger closing in. Lala's suspicions threatened not just his marriage, but his reputation and career. If word got out, his status in the medical community could be destroyed. He tried to distance himself from Marielle, telling her they needed to be careful, to avoid each other at work, and to keep communication minimal. For Marielle, the sudden distance felt like abandonment. She couldn't understand why the man who once called her his future was now treating her like a secret he regretted. In her confusion, she began searching for answers and stumbled upon messages on his tablet one evening while he was showering in his apartment. The discovery shattered her world. Amir had been seeing another woman, a hospital administrator. The realization that she wasn't his only secret broke something inside her. All the nights she spent believing she was special turned into a bitter memory of manipulation and deceit. The man she thought loved her was a liar, playing multiple sides for his own satisfaction. The heartbreak turned into rage. Marielle began keeping records of their conversations, screenshots of their messages, and photos from their meetings. She was determined to expose the truth, not out of revenge, but to reclaim her dignity. She told Amir she had evidence and that she would no longer be silent. He panicked, trying to calm her with promises of money, travel, and a fresh start somewhere else, but Marielle was done listening to lies. As she prepared to reveal everything to the hospital administration and Amir's wife, Amir's desperation grew darker. He started monitoring her, tracking her whereabouts, and even calling her friends to ask where she'd been. Marielle didn't realize that her fight for the truth had put her life in danger. What she believed would be her act of courage would soon provoke a deadly reaction from the man who refused to let his secrets see the light. The night Amir called Marielle to meet him at his private apartment near Jumeirah felt strange from the beginning. His message was calm but urgent, saying he wanted to talk and clear the misunderstandings once and for all. Marielle hesitated, knowing the situation between them had already turned toxic. Yet, a part of her still hoped for closure, maybe even an apology. She wanted to end things properly and finally move on from the lies that had consumed her life. Before leaving, she sent a text to her closest friend in the Philippines with Amir's address, writing that she was meeting him for the last time. That single message would later become a crucial piece of evidence. The night was quiet, with the city lights of Dubai shimmering in the distance. Marielle arrived at Amir's building shortly after 9 p.m., wearing a simple dress and carrying a small purse. Security cameras captured her entering the elevator with a faint smile, unaware that it would be the last time anyone saw her alive. Inside the apartment, Amir had set the stage. There was soft music playing, candles lit, and the faint scent of cologne filling the room, an eerie attempt at normalcy before what he planned to do. Neighbors later recalled hearing muffled voices, followed by a loud crash around midnight. Some thought it was just another domestic argument in the building, not unusual in a city full of transient residents. No one thought to call the police. In those final moments, whatever conversation took place between Marielle and Amir ended violently. By morning, Amir's apartment was spotless, the candles gone, the music silent. But beneath that surface of order lingered traces of a crime that couldn't stay hidden forever. The following day, Amir went to work as if nothing had happened. His composure was chilling. He greeted staff, attended rounds, and signed paperwork without hesitation. When colleagues asked about Marielle's absence, he shrugged and said she was probably unwell. But when she didn't show up for her next shift, concern began to spread. Marielle had never missed work without notice. Her friends called her phone repeatedly, but it went straight to voicemail. They messaged her online, hoping for a reply that never came. Within 2 days, her disappearance was reported to the authorities. The police began tracing her last known movements, checking hospital logs and surveillance footage. That was when they discovered the video of her entering Amir's building. When questioned, Amir claimed she had visited briefly but left shortly after. His calmness seemed rehearsed, but investigators noticed inconsistencies in his story. He couldn't explain why she never appeared on the exit cameras or why his building's maintenance staff reported seeing him carrying a large suitcase to the garbage area late that same night. 3 days after she vanished, a cleaning crew found that suitcase abandoned near the trash disposal site. It contained some of Marielle's belongings, her phone, her uniform, and traces of blood. Panic spread through the hospital, and whispers of murder replaced the earlier gossip of romance. The truth that Amir had worked so hard to hide was beginning to unravel, piece by piece, and there was no way to stop it now. The discovery of the suitcase changed everything. What had begun as a missing persons case quickly turned into a homicide investigation. The Dubai police sealed off Amir's apartment and began a full forensic sweep. At first glance, everything seemed spotless. The floor polished, the carpets replaced, the walls freshly cleaned. But investigators were meticulous. Underneath a layer of the new carpet, they found small traces of blood that had seeped into the wooden floor. Forensic analysis later confirmed it matched Mariel's DNA. The illusion of control Amir had tried so hard to maintain was beginning to collapse under the weight of the evidence. Detectives obtained purchase records from local stores showing that Amir had recently bought cleaning supplies, bleach, gloves, and duct tape. He had also rented a car the night Mariel disappeared. When questioned again, Amir claimed the timing was a coincidence. He insisted that Mariel had left his apartment after an argument and that someone must have planted the evidence to frame him. But his calm demeanor started to crack under pressure. The investigators noticed inconsistencies in his statements, small slips that revealed fear behind his mask of composure. Meanwhile, Layla, his wife, was quietly gathering her own proof. She handed over screenshots of messages Amir had sent her during those final days, in which he confessed that a nurse was threatening to ruin his life. His words painted a clear picture of motive. Layla had no intention of protecting him anymore. She told authorities everything she knew and provided access to the private investigator's photos that showed Amir meeting Mariel repeatedly, including the night of her disappearance. The police broadened their search, combing through remote areas outside the city. It was there, in the vast emptiness of the desert near Al-Qudra, that a grim discovery was made. Buried under a thin layer of sand was a body wrapped in a bedsheet. Dental records and fingerprints confirmed it was Mariel. Her cause of death was strangulation. Near her remains were fragments of a broken phone, a wristwatch engraved with Amir's initials, and traces of duct tape matching the roll found in his apartment. The evidence formed a chilling narrative that could no longer be denied. News of the murder spread rapidly through both the Filipino and Emirati communities. The hospital suspended Amir immediately, and colleagues who once admired him now recoiled in disbelief. Nurses who had once been too afraid to speak began sharing their own unsettling experiences with him. Several confessed that Amir had made unwanted advances, threatening their jobs if they resisted. His reputation as a respected doctor crumbled overnight, revealing a man who had used power and status to manipulate those beneath him. When confronted with the forensic report, Amir remained expressionless. But his silence spoke louder than any confession. The evidence was irrefutable, the timeline too precise, and the motive undeniable. He was arrested and charged with premeditated murder. The same man who once healed patients' hearts had now been exposed as the one who destroyed an innocent woman's life. The illusion of control he had built for years was gone, replaced by the cold certainty of justice closing in. The trial of Dr. Amir Rahman began 6 months after his arrest and immediately drew international attention. Filipino communities across the Gulf followed every update, while media outlets in the Philippines broadcasted nightly segments about the Dubai nurse murder. Mariel's family, humble and heartbroken, arrived from the Philippines, clutching her framed photograph at every court session. Her mother, aged by grief, sat silently through each hearing, staring at the man who had taken her daughter's life. The courtroom was filled with reporters, lawyers, and hospital staff, all waiting to hear how a respected doctor had turned into a murderer. The prosecution presented an unshakable case. Forensic specialists testified about the blood traces found beneath the carpet in Amir's apartment, linking directly to Mariel. Crime scene analysts displayed images of the items found in the desert: the broken phone, the watch with his initials, and the roll of duct tape identical to the one purchased days before her disappearance. The messages retrieved from Amir's phone painted a damning picture. He had texted Lala that Mariel was threatening him and that she needed to stop before it's too late. Those words became the foundation of the prosecution's argument for premeditation. Amir's defense team tried to argue that he was being framed, suggesting that someone else might have used his apartment and planted the evidence. But the timeline destroyed their claims. Surveillance footage from his building showed him carrying the same suitcase found near the trash disposal area. His rental car was captured on highway cameras heading toward Al Qudra. On the same night, Mariel vanished. Digital forensics revealed deleted location data from his phone, which was later recovered, placing him in the same desert region where her body was discovered. Every attempt to deflect blame only tightened the noose around him. When the prosecution played the video footage of Mariel entering Amir's apartment, her last known image alive, the courtroom fell silent. Her family wept openly. The sight of her stepping into the elevator, unaware of what awaited her, left everyone in shock. Even the most stoic observers could feel the tragedy in that brief, haunting clip. Amir showed no visible remorse. He sat coldly, avoiding the screen. His expression remained the same throughout the trial, emotionless, detached, as if the entire ordeal were beneath him. Layla took the stand and spoke with quiet dignity. She revealed how Amir had lived a double life, manipulating and deceiving women to feed his ego. She confessed that she had ignored his behavior for years, believing his affairs were harmless flirtations, until she realized one had turned deadly. She submitted the private investigator's reports, further cementing the image of a man who saw himself above consequence. When she was asked why she decided to testify, she said it was not for revenge, but for Mariel, a woman who didn't deserve to die, for trusting the wrong person. The defense's final argument was weak and unconvincing. Amir's lawyer portrayed him as a man under pressure, pushed to the edge by emotional blackmail, but the jury saw through it. After only 4 hours of deliberation, they returned with a unanimous verdict: guilty of premeditated murder. The judge sentenced Amir Rahman to life imprisonment, the maximum penalty allowed under UAE law for such crimes. The courtroom erupted in tears and relief. Mariel's mother wept quietly, whispering a prayer for her daughter's soul. For her, justice didn't erase the pain, but it gave meaning to her suffering. Following the verdict, Layla finalized her divorce and disappeared from public life. She donated part of her fortune to a foundation supporting abused migrant workers in the Gulf. Al-Zahra Hospital launched a new workplace protection policy, aiming to ensure that no staff member could exploit their position or intimidate another. For many Filipino nurses in Dubai, Mariel's case became a symbol of courage, a painful reminder of how vulnerable many migrant women were in foreign lands. When Maria's body was flown back to the Philippines, her hometown gathered to receive her. The streets were lined with candles, and hundreds attended her funeral. Her friends from nursing school carried her coffin, wearing white uniforms as a final tribute. Her mother thanked everyone who helped bring her daughter home and vowed to honor her memory by helping other overseas workers through a small support organization she later founded. In time, the local government built a small health center named after her, the Mariel Santos Community Clinic. It stood as both a memorial and a message, a place where the poor could receive care from nurses inspired by her compassion. Her story traveled far beyond Dubai, reaching countless overseas workers who saw in her tragedy a reflection of their own silent struggles. Behind the walls of a Dubai prison, Amir Rahman lives out his sentence, stripped of his title, his wealth, and his freedom. His name became synonymous with betrayal and arrogance. The man once respected for saving lives is now remembered for taking one. Mariel's story endures, not as a tale of weakness, but of strength. A woman who dared to stand up for her truth, even against someone powerful, and paid the ultimate price. Her life and death remind the world that love built on deceit always ends in destruction, and that, even in the darkest corners of betrayal, truth will find its way to light.